Well, good afternoon and welcome to Glazers Hall in London as we kick off the fight campaign for Troy Williamson versus Josh Kelly, the British Super-Welterweight title on the line. Delighted to be joined by Ant Crawler. Ant, we were just saying it's a lovely venue for a big fight. This is a big fight.
It is. It's a huge fight, and I'm always a huge fan of British title fights and what special belt it is. I think anyone in boxing just knows the prestige, the history behind these belts, and I'm glad we're getting a special fight for it.
Just talk to me a little bit about the history between Troy Williamson and Josh Kelly. We know that they know each other a little bit, but their fight paths to get to this fight
have been very different. Well, yeah, I think in one lad you've had a lad who will see it as he's done it the hard way. He's done it through the small halls, got his chance on the big shows, took that chance, and now he wants to push on. And he might feel like with Josh, he was the golden boy. Turned over, Olympic, a lot of style, a lot of flair, and with a lot of publicity behind him as well. And listen, let's say also deserved. You know, you don't get. It's not easy to get to the Olympics. It's also deserved. So, I do think they're a bit different from a similar part of the woods, which I think is it for being a local derby. So there's a lot of bragging rights at stake here, as well as the beautiful British title.
You talk about those local bragging rights. We've seen it with the rival football shirts. We've seen it with the calling out on social media. What does it mean for a town or for a city or for an area of the country like the North East, passionate about sport? You get two local rivals who want to come in, they want to go face to face against each other. What does it do for the city?
It gets everyone talking about it. You know, as a boxer myself, I was lucky enough to be involved in quite a few Manchester derbies, and I know they're not both from the same town, but they're from, like you say, the North East, big place, but it's a very proud place, and this will be seen still as local bragging rights. But there's possibly people who are both, well, there will be for sure, people who would buy tickets to go and watch both Josh Kelly and Troy Williamson who'll probably have to pick a side, and it's one of them, like the winner, because this is boxing fans there, and everyone loves a winner, and the winner of these two decides whose journey those fans go on, who they follow more. I mean, listen, it'd be great if they follow them both, but they'll follow more because all in all, boxing fans, they want a night out, they want some away trips, they want world titles, and I think the winner of this fight, it continues their path towards a world title and puts them in a good place.
We spoke with Troy Williamson earlier, and he himself alluded to the fact that this fight might be what some would class as a boxer versus a puncher, speaking about himself as the puncher. Is that a fair assessment?
I suppose you could say it's a pretty fair assessment. Listen, one thing about Josh Kelly is he might not be known as a knockout artist, but he's very sharp. He's very sharp. He hurts fighters and has them in a blur, really. I think sort of so unorthodox. I mean, but even in the fight he lost against David Avnesian, he certainly got his respect early on. So I would certainly say that Josh Kelly can punch, but it is more down to his skills. But you would think the raw, brute power lies with Troy Williamson. So, yeah, I prefer boxer versus fighter out of those two. But I do see where Troy's going with that.
When Josh Kelly steps in the ring, people switch on. They want to see what he's got. Is this a I'm loath to say, is it a career-defining fight? But is it one of those fights that is going to mark a significant chapter in the already impressive career of Josh Kelly?
Absolutely. Obviously, you look at what he's done as an amateur, unbelievable. And you got to remember, Josh was seeing one of the hottest prospects, not just in British boxing, in world boxing coming through. He's getting moved very fast. And it's fair to say, I don't believe for 1 second that a loss finishes a fighter from being a fantastic prospect. But there's no denying his career sort of stagnated a little bit, and it needs to pick back up. The Josh Kelly train needs to get full steam ahead now, and he needs to make those charges towards world titles. And listen, if he wasn't to come out here victorious, it'd certainly put a major dent in those plans. There's no saying he can't come back, because I believe a fight like this is what boxing needs. Brilliant 50-50 fights on a lot of people's mind. You know, for a British title, these are the fights that true boxing fans really want to see. And I don't believe it should be, well, the loser's got nowhere to go. I'm not saying that, but as for fans, as for plans to go on to world titles, I believe it's a must for the winner here. I believe it'd be a lot more difficult, obviously, for the loser to do that. They have to rebuild again.
Well, one man who is charged with planning that route for Josh Kelly, promoter Nissa Sowland.
Yes.
Nissa, welcome to Glazier's Hall. Thank you. What a big fight we've got here.
Yeah, I'm really looking forward to it. I think it's a good end to the year, a nice proper 50-50 British title fight in front of their hometowns, hometown fans. It'll definitely be packed, definitely great atmosphere, and looking forward to it.
Speaking with Troy a little earlier on, he says he expects Josh to come out sharper. The first few rounds he expects to have to get wet in the rain, so to speak. He's going to feel Josh because it's going to be the later rounds that Troy catches up and applies the pressure. Is that a fair assessment of the fight?
Well, I think if you watch Troy, one thing he's got going for him is his cardio is amazing. I mean, he just keeps coming, and I think if you saw his last fight, he was a little bit rusty in there. Made a bit too much work of the fella, but he didn't admit that himself. I think Josh needs to be in it for the long run because I can't see him getting him out of there early. So he just needs to be.
Nissa, do you think that both fighters have been half shown a blueprint on how to win that? You look at the Josh Kelly-Avanesian fight and you think Troy will be taking bits from that. And even though Troy won in his first defence against Mason Cartwright, he got put down. Do you think Josh Kelly will be taking something from that, thinking you got put down a few times early on, and Mason Cartwright on paper is nowhere near as skilled and as sharp as me? Do you both think there's a blueprint for both fighters there?
I think that's why you have an ex-pro fighter on to give such a good angle to it. Yeah, I couldn't have said it better myself. I think also, if you look at Troy, he's a big fella,
he's
man.
Huge.
Like to get to light middle, and then you got Josh obviously fighting at light middle, first time in the championship rounds for the first time. Yeah, I totally agree with that. I think Josh didn't get enough credit for getting into the ring with Avanesian originally. There's a lot of people who've sort of avoided that fight. He's off to America now to fight Crawford. And I think the same with Troy. I mean, Mason Cartwright is a decent fighter. I think he's not a world beater. I don't think he's world class, but he did get put down by him, and it was a great fight.
Yep.
All credit to Mason. And I think Josh should take heart from that, because I see Josh Kelly as truly world class. The only thing that can go against him will be his head and his stamina as well. Not even stamina, just head connecting to heart. If you know what I mean.
You can't fight on emotions.
Exactly.
What does it mean to a fighter? What part does it play in a fight when there's one significantly bigger than the other? Josh recently campaigning at welterweight, Troy looking very big last time out. What does that do in a fight? Does it affect the dynamics?
I think it does in any fight, but I think in this fight it's pretty obvious. You'd be surprised for 1 minute if the first bell went and Josh Kelly goes out looking to hunt Troy Williamson down, who's dancing around on the back foot. You'd be very surprised if that happens. But like I said then, I think Troy's a huge lad for Super Welter. I think even on last time out, I'm not sure what the weight is, but it looked fantastic and it wasn't too near the Super Welter limit. So I believe that Josh will also take something from that fight, thinking it's going to be hard for him to get down, and he's got an unbelievable engine as Troy. But if that weight's becoming more and more difficult to make, it also takes a little bit out of the tank. That tank becomes a little bit smaller. So I believe Josh's team will be into his head thinking, no, it doesn't matter how thin and strong he is, it's going to hurt him getting down to this weight, and that's going to scupper him, whereas we're moving up, we're the fresher guy at the weight. So you never know, the weight actually might suit Josh more. You've got to look at it from both sides. But I believe, just like Nissa said, I think mentally it's so important for both fighters to fight their fight. They can't get emotionally involved, where Josh can't get emotionally involved standing his ground too early on, just like Troy Williamson can't go out there looking to put a dent in straight away and walk onto a sharp counter from Josh Kelly, and that's what just makes it such a fascinating fight.
The first few rounds could be quite cagey.
Yep.
It could be a bit like a Frost
Yes,
Rose.
I half expect that. Yes.
Feeling each other out, lots of little
Fading,
twitches and
exactly.
I was going to say as well with the weight is when you look at Troy, it's not wet weight, if you know.
Yeah.
He's dry at 168. The last fight is around that level. So I don't know how he loses the weight. It's unbelievable.
He's a huge super-welterweight.
Last time out on Channel 5, Troy Williamson against David Benavidez in Bolton. He was made to test that engine. You know, we were sort of maybe expecting Troy to come in and do the job fairly comfortably, fairly quickly. Didn't go to plan like that. He got the job done in the end. Will Josh take heart from that performance?
I don't know how much you can read into that because he's been out a bit.
Extremely
and it was
tough opponent.
yeah, it was really awkward opponent, and then also it was late notice.
Yeah.
So you know better than anyone, you need to have your sparring, you need to get your timing right, and I think you saw through the rounds that Troy was getting his timing back.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean the only thing I'd read into is the weight. That was a super middleweight fight. So I just
I think there's no mistake. This will certainly be a much different Troy Williamson to the one who fought in Bolton recently.
Nissa, what does it mean having this show on Channel 5? It's a big British title clash, huge for the north of England. It's a very prestigious fight. There's going to be a hell of an atmosphere in there, and it's on terrestrial TV to the whole nation. Just how big a statement is that?
I mean, it's just a real treat before Christmas for the viewers. I think number one, I think people's wallets will be appreciating it. I think it's hard times for everyone at the moment, and it's just great to put it on terrestrial TV. I think we'll get over 2 million viewers, which is what we're aiming for. Anything below, I think we'd be a bit disappointed. And it's a proper fight. It's an advertisement for good, clean boxing, and that's what we want on Channel 5.
When you're stepping out, Ant, and again, you will know as well as anybody, when you're stepping out in front of those kind of audiences, what goes through your head on fight night? What goes through your head when you know the world is watching?
They're the kind of nights you work so hard for, you work your whole career for, those special nights. And I just said it before, I think I'm a boxing person, I love the British title, and I'm glad a fight like this is getting the platform it deserves. The amount of eyes that will be watching, it's huge, and I really believe we've got a special fight for a special title, and on the right platform, I really do.
Nissa, before we let you go, can we get a prediction for the fight? Is it too early to ask for a prediction?
No, I think I go Kelly on points.
Sticking with it early?
I think Kelly points. Yeah, that's the way I see it going. As long as his stamina's there, his camp's good, he makes weight correctly. Kelly points.
Well, thank you very much. We'll stick that in the logbook, hold it back. We've got Sam Jones who's coming in, joining us after a quick photograph. Sam Jones, thank you very much for joining us. Camera's over here. Big fight, huge fight. Talk us a little bit about what's on the line on Friday, December the 2nd.
Listen, it's a fantastic fight. I've said it back there. I think boxing fans are getting a bit bored at the moment of fights being spoken about, not happening. I'm not saying this fight's on the same levels of a Fury, AJ and all those type of fights, but it's a phenomenal fight. It's a fantastic northeast derby. People love a domestic fight, and I think Josh may be under a bit more pressure than Troy to win. So I think Josh will probably still go in there as a bookie's favourite. I don't know whether I'm right or wrong about that, but I do think he'll go there due to what he did what he's done in the amateurs and how he was kind of blown up when he started, and the promise of Josh Cale. It's not quite happened yet. There's still time, but he has to win on Saturday. But I fancy our guy Troy to stop Josh.
It's a very good point about maybe it's not quite at the level of Fury, AJ, or that sort of calibre of fight. But if you're going to be a fighter that aspires to be the calibre 100%. Of Fury and AJ, this is the passage. No, this is the rite of passage that you've got to go through. And if you're a
boxing fan, you know this is a real fight.
100%.
Talk to a little bit about Troy. We've just had Nissa on, who obviously knows Josh. Talk to a little bit about Troy. How has he been preparing for this fight?
I know both guys. As I say, I'm a big fan of Josh. I've spent a lot of time in Adam Boo's gym watching Josh. He's phenomenally gifted, but I don't think it's all come together for him on a complete performance yet. I don't believe that to be the case. And listen, if it all happens on Friday, then Troy's in for a hard night. But what I do expect to happen, I think Troy's going to have a few tricky rounds. But somebody like Troy He's one of these. He's such a great athlete. He gets better as the fights go on. He's faced adversity in fights. He's been up off the floor. He's been hurt. He's been wobbled in fights, but he's always come through. He's a dog, Troy, and I do believe he'll grind it out. But I think he can win either on points or through late stoppage.
I was going to ask that, Sam. Do you think the only way Troy can win is dragging Josh into the trenches and drowning him, or do you believe he can also do it? We're underestimating Troy's boxing ability, and he can also do it on points.
Troy's been on the GB squad.
Yeah,
you know, you've got to be a decent fighter to get on the GB squad. You can't be crap.
Absolutely, ABA finalist.
Absolutely. So you can't disregard his boxing ability. But because Troy can punch, he's fit, he's strong. Like what I say, the best way to fight him, he's a dog. He really is, and he's prepared to. If things aren't going his way, the Mason Cartwright fight was there. Yeah, I think he not underestimated Mason Cartwright because he come off a huge win against Ted Cheeseman, which again he was the underdog in that fight. But if he goes into this fight, I think he knows that Josh is very fast. Yeah. He's got very good hand speed, but he is known to kind of slow down in fights and kind of he gets to the second half, and that's when Troy gets even stronger.
Do you think we have to see the best Troy Williamson this night in December? Yeah. To win. To beat Josh Kelly.
100%.
Nothing less will do.
100%. Because listen, like what I say, I don't know whether I might be right or wrong. You're more qualified to hear this, me, but I think there's more pressure on Josh to win this fight because
I agree.
He's had one career-defining fight against Avanesian. It's no disgrace losing to Avanesian. He's going on to he's a world-level fighter, Avanesian, tough man, and Josh probably wasn't quite ready for that. But this fight now, you will see whether that was the best thing that ever happened to him or the worst thing that's ever happened to him. And I think, but I back Troy to win. I really do. I think he's going to have a tricky few early rounds, like what I say, but I think he's going to literally, whether he even has to get up off the floor, he's done it before, and I think he'll grind him down, take him into a dog fight, and I think he's going to get him out of there.
Given that both fighters know each other so well and have done for so long, when you step into the ring and you've sparred each other, you know each other, you know the personality. Yeah. Does it change the dynamic of the fight? If these were the same two fighters, exactly the same in every other aspect of, of their game, but had never met each other, does it make for a different fight, the fact that they do know each other and fairly well? He's probably more qualified than me, Ted, but what I will say is, and I'm sorry to bring the big man up again because I get a lot of start bringing up Joe in fights, but Joy's boxed Dubois, and Joe always told me, he goes, in sparring, Dubois rocked him to his boots with like a jab in sparring, so Joe knew what to expect. So when you spend lots and lots of rounds with people, you kind of, I'm not saying it's the same because it isn't the same fighting in there, but with the heavy-handed, you know the heavy-handed, you know you've got to respect them and that type of thing. So these two will know each other, but Troy knows what Josh brings: blistering hand speed, fantastic footwork for a certain amount of time in the fight, and he'll know what Troy brings. You only have to look at Troy. Type Troy in on YouTube and see what he brings. You can see what he brings. Did you ever have those fights, Sam, where you knew your opponent, you knew what they were about, maybe even sparred them?
I had a few of them. Probably the most notable one was John Murray.
Of course.
What a fight that was.
We was gym mates, so we knew each other really well, and I think that favoured me on the night. And I think probably what favoured me was not making it about myself, was keeping a cool head in what they say in a really hot kitchen. And I believe that's what I was going to ask you, Sam. I don't know who's going to have the most support on the night. However,
Troy, 100%. See how many tickets he sold?
Right, well, there's our answer.
It's going to be a home game for Troy.
I believe so.
Do you believe the same here, where you can make cases for both fighters? If Josh Kelly fights on emotions and stands there with Troy Williamson, gets dragged into a fight too early, you only see it ending one way. However, if you see Troy fired up by that crowd, coming up to put it on Josh Kelly too early, trying to make a dent in him too early, does he walk onto a shot?
Listen, like you say, Troy likes to please. You've got to watch. He's never in a boring fight. He's never ever in a boring fight. Like what you say, Auntie, you're way more qualified than me. I can only say it, but like what you say is like when you fought John Murray, can the emotions get the better of it? It was a Manchester derby, so like you're like, oof. But the atmosphere in there is going to be very intense. I believe Troy's going to have the bigger amount of support. But listen, whether you're a Middlesbrough fan, Newcastle fan, Sunderland fan, whatever, come out and support both the guys because it's a great fight. Fights like this don't usually happen, and it's sad. Sorry, states, to be honest, because they should happen more. But it's a great fight. Like everybody, like in the trade, will know what a great fight this is. And as I say, I believe Josh has a window to win this fight. I think, but he has to do it early, because Troy gets stronger as the fight goes ahead, and Josh notoriously gets slower. So I think Troy's going to win the fight.
When you're in that arena, you talk about that fight, that derby atmosphere. When you land a shot, or equally if a shot lands on you and you hear the crowd react,
you can't react. You cannot react to it.
Do you acknowledge it though? Do you even recognise that the crowd has just?
You're in a zone. You're in a zone, so you don't acknowledge it the same as if you're a fan there, just involved in a great atmosphere. And I think if a fighter does, then he starts fighting on emotions, and so that's what I said previously. I think if either one of these fighters loses their head, and this is what I believe this could come down to. There's no denying it. The more skilled fighter is Josh Kelly, but the fighter who you would expect, and I don't even want to say Dick D, because that would, want to go to war, you would take Troy, and that's in no way any disrespect to Josh.
Do you think Josh would be a little offended hearing that?
Well, he possibly would, because he might say, "You can't question my art. You can't question my art." So maybe I would be offending him saying that, but also it takes a lot of heart to keep a cool head.
100%.
It does. And if you're going to react to something, you're coming away from your game plan. And both fighters, they've got fantastic coaches. They will have a game plan set out for them. And it's very easy to come away from that game plan when there's thousands of people cheering every shot you land, a shot that half lands, that they're overreacting to. So that's why it's so important. And like I've said time and time again, I don't believe either fighter can go too early. That's why I believe it might be a little bit cagey early on, but I think it's going to be a fantastic fight.
Sam, just finally, quickly, 1-1 on the Josh Kelly-Troy fight and how it plays out. We've seen Josh, when he gets in there, he likes to get low, dip his legs, move his head around a little bit, show that flashy side.
Yeah.
Do you think it's too much of a risk to do that against someone like Troy? Do you think he might just dial that back a little bit?
I don't think so. I think Josh is going to go in there and listen, Adam Booth's a world-class trainer, has been for years. They'll go in there and he will have a meticulous game plan for this fight. Adam Booth would have dissected all Troy's fights and provided a game plan for Josh. But I think Josh will go in there, very fast legs, fast feet, fast shots, and I think he'll be up for a first 3 rounds. But Troy will be on his chest for every second of that fight. And as I say, he can't lose his head, because if one of them loses, I think, oh God, he caught with a good shot. You can't lose your head in there, because I think the first person to lose their head in that fight, the fight's going to go downhill from there.
Well, Sam, thank you very much
Thanks
for
very
joining
much
us. Look forward to this one playing out. And everyone we speak to, there's different takes on it. There's different ways of looking at it. This one, I'm sure, will be one more as Callum Sowland
how are we, mate?
comes in.
Mate, I'm
Callum,
good.
how are
I'm looking forward to this.
Absolutely. Great to see you in London.
Mate, it's good to be here. I think a big fight like this deserves to be these kind of settings. All the journals, all the press, and there's been a great reaction from it.
All on this backdrop of this British rivalry, but it's that northeast thing as well, isn't it? And we know how passionate that area of the world is.
Very proud part of the world.
You'd be difficult to find anywhere in the world that's more passionate. But I think on top of that, it's free to air. It's you go through, as you know, Ant, those tough training camps. At the end of it, you think, now comes my moment. Music comes, the lights go on. But to know that so many people are watching at the same time, I think it just gives that extra spice.
I said it just then. I believe these are the moments that a fighter works the whole life for, the whole career for, to know. And listen, we know about the platform. The amount of views that are going to be doing on this night is going to be crazy. And I think I'm a boxing person like you, Kelly. This is the kind of platform.
Not like me. You've sort of won. You've won about everything and sold out big venues. But apart from that, we're very similar. I agree, Ant. I dream it, and you've done it.
We're boxing fans, but
thanks for the compliment.
The British title for us is like one of the most special belts in boxing. This is the kind of platform it deserves to be on.
It's the purest, isn't it?
It deserves to be on this type of platform.
And if you talk about, like, I know, on the one-on-ones after we sit up there and do the press conference, I know that they'll be like, okay, so it's a huge fight. So who's he going to fight next if he wins? And I always say, just give them that moment.
Definitely.
Right? You can play the Charlos, the Twos next year, whatever you want to play. But really, this fight is here to be celebrated. And the British title, for me, has grown in value in a time and age where you hear eliminator this, eliminator that. You can't work out what's a final eliminator. I mean, we've had a situation, completely different area, but Hrgovic, waiting 19 months for an eliminator. We had Dillian White waiting 3,000 and something days. All these things, the British title in that respect, in a country where there is so much competition, it gives the right to fight for that on the big stage. That's for me. It's you see it, by the way, early in the year. Adofia Bentley. Bentley took his chance. Tough fight, great fight from both men, but he took the chance that night over our guy, unfortunately. But he's got on now, fight for the world title. So there's proof in the pudding as well.
So you Springboard, I say it all the time. For me, we rarely see a bad British title fight. Rarely see a bad one. That's why I want to see more, and that's why I'm so happy it's getting this kind of platform, this kind of exposure.
Absolutely.
Calla, let me ask, how did this fight sort of come about? When did it become apparent that the idea of a massive Northeast derby between Troy Williamson and Josh Kelly for the British title?
Do you know what Chris's good draft was? That he was sort of under the shower one day, came up with it, and I thought that's a fantastic fight to make. That was ordered. It was, that's why we're here. But that's what Ant's saying. The matchmaking in the rankings around the belt or the British title at all divisions. By the way, we announced last week, Nathan Gorman, Fabio Wardley. Can't wait to see that fight, November 26th. Great fight. It's all through the rankings. We saw earlier this year, like I said, Adofia Bentley. There's so many. There's 1 out of 10 that's not good as a British title fight, and that's normally because they rarely miss. And add to that the spice of the Northeast, add to that the free-to-air, the great packed arena. I think we've already done 2,000 in the pre-sale. It's going to be an electric atmosphere up there, and almost as good as Manchester when you were boxing. But joking aside, the noise levels up there, and I'm sure it'll be a tasty atmosphere.
We spoke to Troy earlier. He said as soon as this fight was put to him, he was game, he was up for it. This is the kind of fight he wanted to be involved in. I assume it was the same with Josh. As soon as it came out that this fight has been ordered, get me in there, I'm having that fight.
Yeah, I mean, it's weird because a lot of people said, when it first got announced, was like, Josh is going to take the fight. Yeah. I'm like, listen, if you would know how much we have to pull him back from other opportunities, then you don't know Josh Kelly. Yeah. So yes, we've paced him this year. He's had 18 months off. This guy's already broken a few records. He was out the blocks as a professional, touted as the big new hope of British boxing. Was written up and written off. I've never seen it at such a pace. It was like 100 miles an hour in 2 seconds and then back to 0 in about 1. And that's not right at any point of a career, but so early in a career is bizarre. It shows the brutality of boxing outside the ring in terms of, like, hold on, the kid took a step up. Yeah, it was a bit early. Yeah. All good with that. But ultimately, you don't take steps up in life. You've got to be ready to be a winner in any walk of life. I believe you have to be prepared to lose as well. And you sometimes need that. And that's something that happened to Josh. Yeah. But don't write the man off because he lost a fight so early in his career. Yeah. It's what you make of it.
I think it says quite a lot about the level of where these guys are at. The fact that Avanesian is now going over to fight Terence Crawford, who many regard as pound for pound #1 in the world. Well, if he goes and wins that, all of a sudden that loss
doesn't look too bad.
Exactly. But Josh, that's out of his head now, isn't it? We know Josh very well. He's a forward thinker, huge fight to focus. That Avanesian, I mean, Ant.
Let's not forget, against Avanesian, Josh also had moments. He also had moments. People are forgetting that.
I was about to say that.
People don't realise
it wasn't a one-sided beatdown.
Avanesian, since he's walked through absolutely everyone, a lot of people before that, but Josh certainly got Avanesian's respect, and I'm right in saying he buzzed Avanesian along the way.
Absolutely.
But Avanesian come through it. And that's the thing where if he buzzes Troy Williamson, has Troy Williamson got the know-how, can he come through that to then, turn the fight around the way Avanesian did? And also, is Josh a better fighter from that? You would think so. You think he'd learn from that to pace himself a little bit better.
And I do think though what you said, I do think that December the 2nd will also be a bit of a closure on that chapter because it will be a big fight that he's in, and we talk victory. If he's victorious on December the 2nd, I do believe that will be talk of the past, and you'll be seen perception-wise to have moved on. Although in my eyes, he's moved on a long time ago, but perception-wise, we live in a world of perception. We live in a world of social media and negativity and whatever, and extreme positivity at times. But that will be the closure of the chapter, in my opinion.
Josh's last fight on Channel 5 in Newcastle against Argentinian Lucas Bastida, who it turned out was a very, very tough opponent.
He didn't turn out. Hold on. Yeah. No, he didn't turn out. We knew before you get over an Argentinian. You're not getting. You know you've got a good chance of winning, but you know you're going to get your.
You're going to get rounds.
You're going to get rounds. Yeah. I mean, this is once again a man who knows.
Yeah.
And so people before saying, "Oh, he's a mismatch," and this, that, the other. I said, "Hold on."
Well, this was it.
He had a comeback tune-up, which yes was against lesser opposition. We all know about that. But that was to get him back in the ring. Then the second fight back was against an Argentinian. It was a tough Argentinian, but but he got the job done.
I think that was the perception. I should have cleared up with the perception was Josh should be good. But the fact
Taking my words, I'm just using perception and now using them because
the fact that it wasn't that, the fact that it was a really tough fight for Josh, that will have stead him well, because it could be a similar sort of affair in this one. He's going to have to dig deep. He's going to have to. Okay, it's a different perception going into the fight, but it's a similar sort of
dress
experience.
rehearsal.
Exactly, it could just be that dress rehearsal.
But okay. But let's look at Williamson.
Yeah.
He boxed on our
Bolton.
show in Bolton.
Yeah.
Everyone thought that's a wipeout job. He was boxing knowing this fight had already been made. That is not a good place.
Of course, yeah.
And mentally
No, absolutely,
for a fighter.
yeah.
It
It's
doesn't
hard
matter
not to look
doesn't matter
past
if you're
it.
boxing banana
Yeah,
man.
totally.
If you have got a fight, a big fight already on the line, and you just got to turn up and get a man out there, because that's what. Make no bones here. He was there to be got rid of the opponent, but the opponent had another idea.
Yeah.
Came at him. I was sitting there thinking, oh, please don't clash heads, please don't clash heads. And yes, it was also a tougher fight than. But once again, look at the circumstances around it, and I do think it's a very live fight on December the 2nd.
I just want to touch on, before we let you go, Callie, you mentioned the other British title fight there, the Nathan Gorman Fabio Wardley. I don't want to take too much attention away from today, given the occasion. But what a fight you've got there, Nathan Gorman Fabio Wardley. That's a proper British heavyweight title.
Yeah,
fight.
I mean, in a way, similar story to Kelly. We can look back. Dubois fight came at a very bad time for Nathan. Everyone around Nathan knows the stories there. Very early in his career as well, had a loss. Took a long time out, brought him back this year, and he's got himself an IBF, Continental strap. But this is the one that he's wanted from the second he signed with us. It's taken a while to make, but sometimes bigger fights take a while to make, and we're delighted that he has that shot. And we know what Nathan can do. Fighting family, fighting pedigree, and going to be a hot night.
We spoke with Nathan just after that was announced, and he took the time. I think it says a lot about Nathan as a character. Yeah. He took the time during that interview to say he wanted to wish his best on to Josh Kelly in this fight. Wasserman stable together. Yeah. The group that's coming in-house, it's a very strong stable, and you could have 2 British titles by the end of the year. Yeah,
and let's not forget also the ones that are coming through. Lyndon Arthur, Chloe Watson, Matty Harris. There's a lot
Harlem
of
Eubank.
I haven't even mentioned Harlem yet.
Yeah.
He's headlining already.
Yes.
Though. Harlem for me, if you look at the improvements and what a lovely young man and dedicated young man, and I expect him. It's a tough fight, but I expect him to go places. Yeah. Delighted he's headlining in November on Channel 5. Your call.
Well, listen, Callum, we'll let you go up and get ready for the press conference. Thank you very much for joining us. We are a few moments away, I think, from that press conference starting.
Yeah. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. We're a few minutes away from this kicking off, and this really is the opening chapter of what promises to be a really interesting fight week and fight night.
It is, and what are we away from fight night now? We're 5-6 weeks away?
Oh, you put me on the spot.
It's around 5
It's around 5 or 6 weeks away. It's around 5 or 6
These
weeks.
2 boys are going to remember being sat here, and it's going to come round like that. When I'm saying that, there's a lot of hard work that's got to be done in between, from your sparring, your training. There'll be little niggles that get picked up along the way. No fighter ever has the perfect camp where no injuries come through. There'll be little niggles here and there. They've got to come through that. They've got to make weight. But you trust me, we'll be sat here, or we'll be stood here 5 or 6 weeks' time, and we'll be amazed how quick it's gone, and I can't wait for it.
Well, they're about to look into the whites of each other's eyes as the press conference is about to kick off. We're going to throw to Andy Clark.
So welcome everybody, a very warm welcome to Glaziers Hall for this official announcement for a fight that has been eagerly anticipated ever since it was first put together really by the British Boxing Board of Control back in in July. On Friday, December the 2nd at the Utilita Arena in Newcastle, we will see Judgment Night. Troy Williamson defending his British Super-Welterweight title against Josh Kelly. And these are two fighters who know each other well. It's not just a good fight for the North East because they're from the same part of the country. It's just a great fight in general for British boxing. Of course, they spent time together on the Team GB setup. They go back a bit further than that from what I'm told. We'll get into that with themselves and all the principal players on the table away to my left-hand side. But as I said at the very start, it's just a fantastic fight. And I remember when it was made by the board in July, you're rubbing your hands together as a boxing fan, but there's always that slight part of you that just worries that something might get in the way, that there might prove to be some obstacles. It just made so much sense. The paranoia in you, which I think we've all got a bit of that, just makes you wonder whether it's actually going to happen. So it's just great that that hasn't turned out to be the case. It's not been one of those occasions. The teams have kind of run headlong towards it. And we've managed to get it over the line. So we've got Team Kelly over on the far side there, Adam Booth and Josh. Team Williamson, Sam Jones and Troy. And in the middle, of course, Calla Sauerland. So Calla, this is a great fight for you to bring to the Channel 5 audience, to a terrestrial audience. How easy was it to make? Because once the board, as I say, kind of mandated it, you're under pressure then to deliver it. Was it straightforward or was it not?
Good afternoon. First of all, I'd like to say the fight was not difficult to make. I know there was a lot of opinions that, Josh or Troy didn't want the fights. I think they both wanted it. I know from personal experience, having worked now for a while with Josh and with Adam since many years, he's chomping at the bit. So there was never a question of not taking the fight. Of course, you've got to make the deal happen. The deal happened very quickly compared to other fights we've made this year. It was a very simple one. So the fight of that magnitude, to make it so easily, is a great sign for what awaits us. Yeah? Got two guys, two gladiators who absolutely want it. We've got a backdrop of the Northeast. I struggle to think of areas of the world, let alone the UK, where sport means more. I think we're going to have an absolutely packed house. The great thing is, this great British title is something that is so pure in the sport, something which naturally leads to bigger things. And, we talk about, final eliminators, big fights that break you out in the world scene. Well, the winner on December the 2nd will have that breakthrough. That's a given. But the reward for both of them during this very hard training camp will be the platform, the eyeballs of Channel 5, the nationwide audience. We're going to be in over 40 countries around the world. It's a huge fight that I believe will determine also the careers of the fighters, but will entertain the entire nation on many levels. But we are extremely, extremely excited to be back in the Northeast on December the 2nd.
Thanks very much, Calla. And it is, of course, coming to us in the middle of a World Cup when the whole nation is reduced to a kind of sporting frenzy for as long as England stay in the tournament anyway. So we'll go to Team Kelly to start with. Adam Booth, Josh's trainer, over on the far side. Adam, people talk about timing in boxing particularly, but in sport and life in general, if you like. Is this a case of perfect timing for both of these fighters, that this fight has come at just the right time?
For the fans it is. They're both in their prime. They're both full of that peak energy, belief, confidence and competitive spirit. So certainly as a sporting spectacle, and for two guys that want to test themselves and see how good they can be and pit themselves against guys of their standing, is absolutely a match made in heaven.
Was there any hesitation about taking it from your side?
No, I had a call from the Board of Control. I can't remember where I was now. I wasn't in the country, but I had a call to say, we're putting out some nominations. Do you want this? I phoned Josh straight away said yes. I think it took less than 5 minutes to get that confirmed with the board.
Well, I remember talking to Josh down at the gym around about that time before his fight in Newcastle in July, and yeah, what he was saying was that it was the ideal fight that came at the perfect time. So, Sam, how was it from your side, from the Team Williamson side?
I think as soon as the fight got touted around, Troy rang everybody he could to make sure the fight happened, because everybody loves a domestic fight. Everybody loves a domestic fight. Troy's never turned down one opponent. I've known Troy a long time. He's never turned down an opponent, and I don't think it was going to start with Josh Kelly. He fancies the job.
And Calla was talking about the British title. Of course, that's his British title. That's in his possession. It's still hugely significant in a fighter's career to win that title and to keep hold of it, but particularly when you're in a fight like this where you've got local bragging rights on the line. Yeah,
absolutely. I mean, there's a lot of crap in boxing at the moment with big fights not happening for one reason or another. I'm not going to put that into the same bracket, but both guys need a lot of credit for making this fight happen, because they could have both very easily gone separate routes. But they both took the fight. I fully expect Troy to win. I think it's going to be a fantastic atmosphere as well. I've been involved in a few fights up in the northeast, and they really back their own, whether it's whatever football team you support. I'm sure they'll come on to that very soon, but I just want them all to come out and back the event, because it's going to be a special atmosphere.
No, 100%. I'm sure you're right about that. So on to the fighters themselves. Josh, when I bumped into you in the gym in July, you were all for this. It was the next fight on your radar. You were absolutely insistent that there was no way that you were going to let this one slip by. That you were delighted that the board had done what they did. You were very confident when I spoke to you that day. Still as confident now?
100%, mate. 100%. I think this fight's come at the perfect time for me. That I mean, I boxed on the big scene. I've been on this pressure. I've been underneath the lights before with big fights, so I know what it feels like. So, listen, I feel as though I've got more experience in that department. I feel as it's my time now to go and sort of take this British title, take it with both hands, mate, which I know I can, 100%.
So just fill us in on what actually is the history between you two. We know that you were on the GB squad together. You were boxing at welterweight. He was boxing at middleweight. But I think you did say to me that you'd shared a ring when you were really quite young, earlier in your careers. Done some sparring. Where does it all start for the pair of you?
Yeah, I think obviously we in the northeast is small. It's a small place, so you get good sparring where you can. Obviously, Troy was good sparring. I think he was down with Andy Marksby in Dalton at the time. Only young, so but coming through Team GB, yeah, we see a lot of each other. Obviously, travel the world and stuff. But I just know what level of skill and desire I possess, and I know that this fight's perfect for me at perfect time. I'm just raring. I'm raring to go, 100%.
And what would it mean to you to win a British title?
Listen, it's one of the titles what mean a lot to people in this country, but my eyes are on the big titles, the world titles. So obviously to get there, you got to beat the likes of Troy Williamson. So that's my aim, the big titles.
And Troy, last time I saw you, you were sliding up towards ringside after Josh's fight at the end of July, much to the irritation of the Board of Control in your Newcastle shirt, which was perfect timing for us. It's the same from your side, isn't it? There was never any possibility that there was any fight that you wanted other than this one.
Yeah, this is the fight that I wanted. Josh, obviously, like you said, I like Josh. He's outside of boxing. I'd class him as a friend. Spoke to him on social media. Travelled on trains to numerous tournaments together. But it's a business at the end of the day, and we've got to put friendship aside and get down to business on December 2nd.
What have you made of his professional career so far? Because he's had a lot of spotlight. The intensity of it has been pretty fierce at times. You'll have seen that fight against David Avanesian, of course. That's all in the past now. But as an observer and somebody who knows him, has known him for a while, what have you made of the ride he's had?
I think he's had a good ride. I don't think he's finished. Obviously, a lot of people are saying that he could be at the end of his career. He's only a couple of years younger than me, so he's only a young lad. I think he had a great start to his career. There was a lot of hype about him. He was rightly so. He was an ex-Olympian. He deserved it. I don't think he's... What's the word I'm looking for? I don't think he's propelled in what people thought he was going to. And now he's fighting for the British title. It's time to really end his career, and I do believe that I will do that.
And that's quite strong stuff, Josh. That Troy feels that he can put your career to an end on December the 2nd. What do you make of that?
Nah, that can't happen, bro. Listen, I'm only 28, so I'm still young in this sport, and I don't know how old Troy's in. Are you at 30 in his 30s? So obviously, when I win the British title, then that could be the flip side of Troy's career ending it. Because where's Troy going after losing that fight? There's not many options for him there. So I mean, yeah, it's gonna be an enjoyable night, mate. I'm telling you that, 100%. Come on, Sam Jones. Come on, Sam Jones. I'm ready for you, lad.
No,
Come on.
Listen, Troy's always in entertaining fights. He's always in entertaining fights. Win, lose, or draw, which he's not faced the defeat yet. He's always in entertaining fights. I genuinely believe the more pressure is on Josh in this fight. Nobody should be judged on one defeat. Josh is a phenomenally talented fighter, but if you look at the careers of when they started, people were tipping Josh for massive things, and he still might go on to those things. But as I say, I think he'll be the bookie's favourite in this fight. I don't know whether I'm right or wrong. Someone can correct me on that or not. But I think more pressure is on Josh in this fight to win.
Sam, wouldn't you though say quite rightly? I can sort of see where you're coming from, but Josh has got to be. I've never seen an athlete, and this was looking in from the outside, as a fan more or less, who was built up like a skyrocket at 0 to 100. Certain interests, business interests probably, because, the UK still looks for these new phases of the future, but built up at 0 to 100, takes a loss early in the career. I've had many world champions who've had that.
That guy's fighting Terence Crawford.
And, that comes into it, but even that doesn't really matter. It could have been a slip up to a journey. These things happen. Like Vladimir Klitschko, got knocked out 3 times, went on to defend his world title for 10 years. But it's what your pedestal you're put on. And that's not the fighter who puts you necessarily on that pedestal. It's what happens from that point. But I've also never seen a rocket ship being taken down so quickly over a loss at that stage of a career. It was literally like the end of the sun and the moon all at once. And if you look at, and this is Josh behind the scenes, you'd think you're talking about a different person. Again, when this happened, I was up at doing a media day in Manchester, totally different fight. They said to me, "Oh, can't believe Josh Kelly's really taking this fight." I said, "Are you winding me up?" I said, well, Josh Kelly was asking me, what's the fastest way? And here, Adam, as a very successful trainer manager for many years, has to put the leashes on, because he would go out and fight Charlo tomorrow, Sue tomorrow. But that's where you look at steps, and this fight, and the great thing about the British title, again, is a true step. It's not it's not like, I will get someone name in from abroad or whatever. We know exactly. We know that this is a very good fighter. This is someone who's been hyped up in the past to be the next Nassim Hamed, cross with De La Hoya, cross with a few others, after 2 fights, right? That's an interesting one, but ultimately, we know what Josh can do. He's in the hands of Adam, who I rate as one of the best trainers in the last decades. And this guy has got a set on him bigger than the watermelons outside in Borough Market. So just remember, the hype didn't come from this man. Go look at the past interviews, look at where the pressure came from. It didn't come from him, and that part of...
I think with a name like Pretty Boy, there's always going to be a bit of pressure on your kind
he's pretty, isn't he?
He's still there, growing your hair back. Listen, Callum, like what I said.
I considered myself the pretty boy till he turned up.
That beard looks oiled down there, Sam. That beard looks oiled.
It's well oiled. It's to hide the greys, but that's another conversation. But listen, the fight against Avanesian, I mean, even when I've seen Josh in the gym, phenomenally talented fighter, great trainer like Adam Booth, and a fight like Avanesian, it can either go two ways. It can either be the best thing that's ever happened to him or be the worst thing that's ever happened to him. And I think we're going to get that answer on fight night. I really do. I think it will be a fantastic fight. I think for 3 rounds, Josh is going to look very, very good, get a lot of success. But when it gets hard in there, Troy's proven when it gets hard in there, he gets better. And I fully back
already a victory, Sam. If we got 3 rounds off you, I'm happy. I mean, that's already a result for today.
3 good rounds.
3 good rounds as well.
Very good rounds.
Yeah, exactly. Listen, that Avanesian fight, all credit to David. I can't take nothing away from him, but I beat myself in that fight before I was even in the fight. As I took that year off, to sort my head out. I mean, I was borderline. I've never really spoke about openly, and people always say, why did you take that year off? Mental this, and everyone blames mental health. But I was borderline hypochondriac, and I was a hypochondriac, and I generally thought I was getting ill before every boxing fight I was going into. And on the week of that fight, just to sleep alone, I remember on the Wednesday, I remember rightly, I was sat in the hotel room thinking I got no sleep here, looking at the sky thinking, what am I gonna do? Crack the mini fridge open and start drinking whiskey to put myself to sleep, mate. That was the fight. That's what I was battling in them demons in my head going to that fight. So to win it, to do what I did in the first 4 or 5 rounds, close people would say, listen, it looks like it was half a miracle even getting you in the ring. But the fact, obviously, David can't do anything. He just got to go in there and box. But the fact that I was going through that and then come out the other end in the way I am now, it's unbelievable. So yeah. Anyone looks at that fight and thinks there's any blueprint there, I beat myself on that night massively. I beat myself 2 weeks before that fight.
I hope you're going to be 100% for this fight because.
Oh, don't worry, bro. I will be.
Obviously, we all know like you've seen a mental coach now, so I hope there's not going to be no excuses on the night saying that your mental health's not right there.
Oh, Troy, you do your digging, don't you, bro?
Troy,
you got a little fancy to me.
On that though, I remember we did talk about it briefly when I saw you in July, and then you did an article in Boxing News about it as well, Josh. And people are encouraged now to be much more open about these kinds of things, and that's to be, that is to be applauded. But from your point of view, Troy, to hear an active fighter admit to those kinds of problems, did that surprise you?
I'm not one to obviously comment on that. Everyone people take a loss, and it's easy to just to give excuses. But like I said, I'm not one to judge that because mental health is a horrible thing. It's not nice to see people with mental health, but yeah, obviously I'm not one to judge that.
Okay, so we'll wind it up there. I think we're all looking forward to Friday, December the 2nd, very much. As we said, live on Channel 5, Troy making the second defence of his British Super-Welterweight title against Josh Kelly. It's a great fight for the North East, as we know, but as I said at the beginning, it's just a great fight for British boxing. We had a terrific British title fight back in May between Denzel Bentley and Linus Udofia, a tremendous atmosphere as well, and I'm sure we'll get exactly the same when December the 2nd comes around. So thanks everybody for joining us. Everybody will be available for separate one-on-ones as usual, and I think we'll have a face-off. Are we going to have a face-off now? Yep. Yeah. Okay, so let's get to that.
Guys, can we get down a bit?
Guys, can you crack so the camera behind you can see the screen?
Well, the press conference and the first face-off is done. Josh Kelly, thank you for joining us up here. How was it on the top table?
It was good. Enjoyed it. Nice, chilled, relaxed. Been there and done it before, mate, a couple of times now. So you sort of get used to it. Do you know what I mean? You start to get used to it. And you sort of, it's all part of the circus, which is boxing, isn't it?
It's been well documented, but it was spoke about again when you're up there that you guys know each other. But now you're in business. Now you're in the fight campaign against one another. When you looked into each other's eyes, what did you see? Was it different from the usual, maybe friendly relationship that you've had previously?
Listen, it is what it is. At the stare-offs, it's just stare-offs. Sometimes you can take things from, sometimes you don't. You're just in it a little bit. Do you know what I mean? So it doesn't really. I didn't really get much from that one, to be honest, mate. We're just both being Mr. Serious, I think.
Do you know in the head-to-head then, Josh? I was watching him. Maybe it's down to clothing, I don't know, but I expected to see Troy as much the bigger man. Did you feel up close there, the sizes in it? It seems to be a big talking point. Do you believe it's as big as what people are saying?
No, I mean, like, did you see them? There wasn't a massive size difference
Not
there.
at all,
no. And in my last fight, I proved that the guy was a big 6'1" super welter, and I proved that I could have pushed him back and I was stronger, but it's not my boxing style. But I was bigger in the ring. I felt more powerful. I felt as I was shifting on him a little bit easier. I mean, I spar with super middleweights in like heavies in the gym regularly, so welterweight was killing us, and it was absolutely killing us.
He was huge. That's on the night. You'll probably get in the ring a similar weight, won't you? I believe.
Probably. Bro. I mean, the thing is, boxing's at 12. We're not trying to wrestle each other. We're not like MMA. You can't really physically impose that weight. You've got to get past the hands. So to be an athletic boxer like me, you need to be light, fast, on your toes. You know what I mean? You can't be putting on loads of weight after weighing because you've drained that much off and stuff. So super welterweight is shooting us nicely, and like you said, there's not much size difference there at all.
It was really big of you to open up the way you did up there. Mentally now, are you in a good place, ready to go for a campaign like this one?
Yeah, mate. Listen, it's like I was so, you know what it is, I wanted to win so much. Like I needed to win so much, right? And that built this pressure up in me. Even since an amateur, when you get touted and you're like, this is the thing, and then you go to the Olympics and then you're touted for this medal and this, and then next thing you turn over and like you said, all the hype mate. It was just, it's all since I've been like 16, 17, it was always in my head, and I was always. And obviously you don't talk about them things much because we're in this boxing industry, especially back in the day, it was like unsaid, unspoken. So, and when it got to that, I mean, think of it. The first Avenetian fight, I pulled out because I was ill. I was genuinely ill. Second fight, got called off with COVID. I was in bed, actually, I had COVID at the time, right? So on the third fight, I'm thinking, are you mad? I need to be able to, I need everything to be right because I want to win so much. Now that fear's gone, it's like I just go in and enjoy myself. If I go and take it too serious, I've lost the fight even before I got in there.
You enjoying boxing more now leading up to this fight than you was pre-Avenetian?
100%. It weren't me. It weren't me against.
But it shows you, because that was a very big thing what you did say up there. But if someone had looked at Josh Kelly from the outside, they saw this flash, you know, pretty boy Kelly, flamboyant.
On social media.
Social media, that didn't tell the full story.
Not at all, mate. Like, I could go into like the depths of where I was at in that week, but some of it's pretty dark, so I'll just keep it at that. And the fact that on my kids' lives, I think I had, if I totaled it up, from Monday to Saturday, I think I had about 14 hours sleep. And I remember one of the coaches who's not here today, the Friday night, I said, listen, can you sort of